Welcome back to Photography Basics course with Shirley Tittemarry, Module 2, What and How. Now that we know where our buttons are, what do they do? Let's find out.
Okay, so this is the live display when you're shooting, and I have it on just a plain white background so we can see how the settings change. So there's lots of information on the back of the display. This is your shutter speed, this is your aperture, this is your exposure, and this is your ISO. So those are the three functions that communicate with the camera. So our shutter speed is at 125 with a 4.0 aperture and a 1600 ISO. I am in a room with mostly available light, 2 windows, the shades are down, my ceiling light is not on. The ISO tells the camera how sensitive it needs to be about what your available light is. So 1600 is kind of low light, it's not in broad daylight, but we're also not at night. So these are your ISO options. Of course we could shoot on auto, but I don't recommend that. So as I scroll through my options here, the light is changing. Because at 6400, I'm telling it I need all the help I can get. At 100, I'm saying, I got this, it's broad daylight, I don't need you to overcompensate. So let's get it back to where we were at 16, because that is pretty bright and we're still gonna have some content in our object. It's a great starting point. So that's your ISO. Your shutter speed is set at 125 currently. If I move it up to 1000, that's a faster shutter speed. So the opening of the camera is opening very quick, and the quicker it opens, the less light that is coming in. If I lower it 20th of a second, that's a longer exposure time, and that is more light coming into the camera. So let's go back to 125. Now your aperture is at 4.0. So that is pretty wide open, letting all the light in. To change that, we hit this asterisk button and the rotary. So you're gonna hit star and the rotary. And as you move the rotary, it's changing your aperture. Okay, and then a couple things are happening. Your screen is changing, your live display, but also down here your exposure scale or exposure level is also changing, and it's telling you right now I'm overexposed and right now I'm underexposed. This little digit right here that moves, so overexposed, underexposed, and right here is centered. It does that because your aperture is changing. 7.1 to 13, I'm closing that aperture, so I'm not letting out as much light in, and that's why it gets darker. If I change it from 13 to 4.0, I'm opening it up again, so I'm letting more light in. So I'm changing my aperture by holding in the asterisk and the rotary. Hear that clicking? And then if I wanted to change just the shutter speed, this 125, I would only use the rotary. So 4000 is a crazy fast shutter speed. That's why it's dark. I'm not letting any light in. And then at 80, I'm letting a whole lot more light in, and it's a slower shutter speed. So that's what makes it bright to dark. So that's from one extreme to the other for shutter speed. And for aperture, I hold star, rotary, starting at 4.0 to 22, again, one extreme to the other. And your ISO works the same. One extreme to the other. They all work together.